y'all. Okay, Sherry never gets to introduce me again because I can't follow that, actually. Except to say, like, what she said. I'm going to move this down a little bit because in addition to being more eloquent than I am, she's taller than I am. Is that better? Okay, good. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for those of you who bought the book, for buying the book. They always give me a short leash because the truth of the matter is there's nothing I enjoy more than having a conversation with you all. I try to talk over a little bit and answer questions, but they've given me a short leash.
Your attention, please.
And we'll be interrupted periodically.
Tours with Thud. Please come back to the show office. Tours with Thud.
And it's great to see the Red Hat women here. I think it actually got cut from the book one time when I was traveling in 2004. They told me that I was a bunch of people I was supposed to meet at a town meeting, and I went in, and I was supposed to turn right, but I turned left, and ended up in a room full of women wearing purple and red hats, and I had the best time. They finally had to come get me out of that room and say, no, my group was on the other side. This book actually is about making the most of the people that you're around and bringing them into your lives. When I did the book tour the first time, I talked about what we do in our lives, which is, I think, we create a tapestry. It's a story of our lives. It's got all the different parts of it in it. The big ribbons of color are our family and our closest friends. But if you made a tapestry just of those people, it wouldn't hold up, would it? I mean, what you need are the threads that connect all those things together, that enrich it, that provide it with diversity and vibrance. And those threads are the people you meet, I think, are the people that you bring into your lives. They're not the big colors. They're the people you work on the literary magazine at the PTA with, or the people whose children are on the soccer team that you coach, or the people that you work with, but perhaps not so closely. They're, frankly, your mailman and the fellow who bags your groceries at the grocery store. They're the people who provide the depth and color to our lives. And this book is about them. It does follow my life story, but I think of my life story as being the setting for their stories and how they helped me out. They helped me out because I brought them in into my life, and then when bad things happened to me, and they did happen to me, Sherry's right, they happened, but they're going to happen to all of us, and I started to fall, that tapestry became a safety net that caught me. And because it was strong, because it wasn't just the ribbons, and those people were great for me, it was because it was also those threads, I didn't fall. I was able to keep going on and live my life different, of course, after the death of our son, different after a political campaign, different after the breast cancer, certainly different, and after the recurrence, definitely changed. But I've never had a trouble putting one foot in front of the other because I've had this help. This is a book about you. It's the reason it's not named My History or anything like that, why it's named Saving Graces, about the people who saved me. I'm going to read a couple of passages. I'll tell you that the book is about all the things that happen in my life, including a lot of things that are sad and some parts that are hard to read. But the truth is, I one time did a reading in Minneapolis at the Mall of Americas, and I read one of the passages about grief that was very hard to read and very hard to listen to. And the people in the audience had this odd look on their face. And I realized later when I finished that they were looking at me, reading, but behind me was an enormous Ferris wheel moving around with laughing children. And somehow it was not an appropriate thing to read. So I'm not reading that in this happy setting here with palm trees and sparkly clothes and pure romance apparently behind us. Instead, I'm going to read passages about some of the other ways in which you bring people into your life and you're enriched by it. One of the first stories, though, one of the first passages I'm going to read is a passage that happened very early in my life because I came from a military family. I moved around all the time. I moved 14 times by the time I was 17 years old. And what that meant was if I wasted my time, if I didn't, go out to the playground, stick my hand out and introduce myself, I was going to be moving before I learned these people's names. So I always did that. I always brought people in my life immediately. And then I learned that you could do more. And this is the earliest story I remember about the importance of community. My dad was stationed in Japan. He was a reconnaissance pilot, so he did spying. Like, for those of you who are old enough to remember Gary Powers, back in the Gary Powers U-2 days, that's kind of what my dad did. And but he did it from a base in Japan. He would leave and we wouldn't know where he was going or when he was coming back. And he would come back, and if he had bananas, he stopped in Taiwan, and if he brought jewelry from my mother, he'd stopped in Thailand. But the work he did was dangerous, but of course I didn't know that. I didn't know frankly, at the age of 9, that what danger was. And I certainly thought that's how everybody lived. This is 1959. In my world, fathers did dangerous work. It wasn't that they had more courage, it was simply what fathers did. As far as I knew, every 9-year-old American girl lived exactly the same way. As far as I knew, all of their fathers, the fathers of every 9-year-old girl, the fathers of every girl, got in a plane and flew away and didn't come back for days or weeks or even months, and sometimes didn't come back at all. That's what happened to April Decker. Just before Memorial Day, 1959, a plane from my father's squadron stalled on its approach to the Iwakuni runway and crashed in the Sea of Japan. 4 men, one of them April's father, Lieutenant Commander Ben Decker, who had been a classmate of my father's at the Naval Academy, were dead. Within hours of the plane's tumble, my mother was at the Decker home breaking the terrible news to April's mother, Helen. It was news my mother had heard herself before, when she was told that Carl Hallen, who was her first husband, a World War II pilot who had died. So she knew what to do and what to say and what not to say. Mother took April, then only 2, to our house and returned to help Helen dismantle her life, the life her family had shared in Japan. Military community that had become her family in the last year would soon be far away. She had to move quickly. The protections of the military overseas extended to wives, but not to widows. Helen needed to pack up what she could of her life in Japan, literally and figuratively, and begin to prepare for the unknown life she and April now faced. But for the time, she wasn't alone. She had my mother by her side. Helen and April stayed with us that first night, and then April stayed on with us for the next week while Helen went home to pack. Mother stayed with her each day until Helen slept and tried to arrive in the morning before she awoke. When some other wife would spell her, Mother would rush home to check on April and on us. She was so tired she could hardly move, but she never thought of stopping. Oblivious to the pain in her own home, April was happy with her new adventure with our family. She was she was the only child in her family. She went to the pool with us in the day. She ate dinner with our family. Each night, one of us would bang on an antique Japanese gong to call the family to our happy dinner. April shared the side of the table my brother usually had to himself. There were 3 of us. My sister and I sat on the girls' side of the table, my brother on the boys' side of the table, for anyone who's ever lived that way. Everyone was at the table. One of us children would say grace. It was all a delightful mystery to a young only child. One night April said, "I want to say it." "What?" my mother asked. "Grace." "That's fine, hun." Then turning to us, "April is saying grace tonight." The table got quiet. Everyone folded their hands. April, with a resoluteness that she would need in life, took over. She'd never said grace before. It was quiet a bit too long. My brother squirmed. Finally it came. One word. Grace. April unfolded her hands and picked up her fork. We all opened our eyes over our folded hands and looked at our mother. Mother gave the unmistakable signal that we were to treat April's version as a real blessing, because, of course, it was.